Welcome, and this is your first video for science. And basically, if we're working from the book, then most of the time I'll be making a movie that you have to watch before you enter class, and then you should be able to do the questions, and then you can do the questions. Yeah, and if you do have questions about the questions, you can ask them right away, so you can get going very quickly. And this is basically the way we're going to do it this year. And if we take a look at it at paragraph 1, we're going to discuss properties, safety, and part of safety are hazard symbols. Okay. So it's called substances at home. So what is a substance? Substance is simply something, a material like wood or glass or iron. And you have lots and lots and lots of substances. And you can recognize them. You can recognize what is what. And that is because of properties. And what is a property? That's your first note. So I would like you to pause the video after you have seen me typing it down, and then make it as a note. A property is something you can recognize a substance from. So you can recognize, for instance, sugar from the taste or the color. You could recognize alcohol from the odor. So lots of different properties there are. What are properties? Examples of properties. Then you can think of odor, and the odor is the same as the smell. So you can recognize alcohol from a strong smell. You could recognize poop from the odor. And the color is something you can recognize from. You can recognize silver from the color or copper from the color. If you have wires at home, you could recognize the electrical wires that it's copper because it's yellowish and shiny. That is a property. Another property is the taste. You can recognize sugar from its taste. And another one, and that what you might not really know until you see it, is flammability. And flammability is simply how good it can catch fire. I can recognize wet wood from dry wood by simply the flammability. So there are lots of things we can use to recognize a substance. For instance, if you have a clear, that means that you can see through it. Well, not really, this is transparent if there's not much. And clear fluid without a color, that could be water. But then you need to smell it, if you can't smell it, or taste it, and then you might recognize it as water. And for instance, my wedding ring, it has different properties, and it doesn't look like gold. This is white gold, but then there are different other properties you can use to check if it is gold or not, what it actually is. Please note that the volume, so how big it is, or the mass, how heavy it is not a property, because you could have another material, or another object, with the same material, which is bigger or smaller. You don't know what it is. For instance, if you have a block of wood, and then you recognize that from properties that's a block of wood, you don't recognize it from the mass because if you split it, it is still wood, but the mass has changed. The volume has changed. That is a property. And different materials means they can do different things to you. Some materials you need to use, need to eat or drink, like water or your bread. And other materials, they're bad for you. So we need to talk about safety. And especially with the chemist part, then we need to take a good look at safety because we're working with chemicals, and chemicals, they are not, can be harmful. Some chemicals are good for you, for instance medication. Other chemicals are bad for you. And when can it be hazardous? It can be hazardous if you swallow it, or if you breathe it in, or it comes on your clothes or your eyes or your skin, or it is mixed with something else. You get a big reaction that it catches fire or that it explodes. And all these things you need to know what the hazard of a substance is, and that is why you can put symbols on bottles, on materials, why it is hazardous, and that is a hazard symbol. And if you take a look on page 15 on your book, in figure 3, you can see 6 hazard symbols. The hazard symbols for corrosive, that means that it etches in your skin, it will go into your skin. Explosive, that means that it will explode. Highly flammable, it means that you easily catch fire. If you just have a match or a cigarette next to it, then it'll catch fire. Oxidizing, then if you put that next to a fire, it will burn much more brighter. And toxic means that it's a poison. You can get ill from it, or you can die from it. And harmful, it can irritate you, the skin or the eyes. And these hazard symbols, especially you can see around you, especially the last one. If you take a look in the cupboard where the cleaning agents are at home, and you need to learn these 6 symbols by heart. We'll simply put down a few of these symbols, and then you need to be able to know this is it. So if you see a skull of bones, you need to know, oh, it's toxic. Another thing of safety is that if we do a lab, you do not eat and drink in a lab, and if you don't smell, and if you do need to smell, the teacher asks you to smell, you take a very, very small whiff. That is, you put the substance very far away from you, and you try to smell. Nothing yet. You just one whiff towards you, and you smell that, and not more. Just to safety, work safe, and the hazard symbols, learn them by heart. Okay. Last I want you to do that. Suppose you are substances, and I want you to write down one property to recognize desmins. So write down one property I could use to recognize desmins. That is part of the homework. Write it down in your jotter, and then I want you to have your device and notebook and book brought to you to the next class. See you then, see you on Friday.